part of our future into this world to save us. We pray that you'll be with us and help us to understand these things. Our members and loved ones that are traveling, and those for your presence with them as well. Love you so much, and we thank you for Jesus, and in his name we pray. All right. Everybody hear me okay? Very good. So describe Sarai's situation as this chapter opens, and what was her solution? Let's answer the first part. Cindy?
She was barren.
Okay, so we're told up front that Sarah had borne no children to Abram. And so she was still barren. And what did we read? What was Abram told last week in our study?
That he would have an heir
From where?
from him.
Yeah, so that through his own, a son would be born to Abram from his own body. And we were told earlier in that chapter 15, verses 4 through 6, that Abram believed God and it was counted to him for righteousness. And I think that Sarah also believed that. I'm searching around and looking at this more today. I think she believed that this son was going to come through Abraham, but it just wasn't going to be fulfilled through her. And Abram is how old?
91.
I hear 91. Does anybody want to give me a lower number? He's 85. According to chapter 16 and verse 16, he was 85. And Sarah is 9 years younger, 9 or 10, depends on what time of year I guess it is. And so she would be 75 or 76. And you can see that in chapter 17 and verse 1, that how old Abram was 99, and in verse 7, verse 17, it says Sarah was 90. So 99 and 90 is about 9 years. If you were in Sarah's shoes, what would be your thoughts about you being the mother of this child that was promised to Abram?
Terrified.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to have one, I guess. I think her hope has been diminishing every year that she's gotten older. And consequently, what conclusion did she come to? And that's in the text.
That was going to be through another woman.
Yes, but more specifically about herself.
That she would have a female Egyptian.
What's the first thing she said to Abram in verse 2? The Lord has prevented me from having children. So she is attributing her barrenness, if there is such a word, that God is preventing her from having children. And I think she's right. I think she's right about that. And so, let's just kind of step back a little bit. If that's the case, if God has actually caused Sarah to not be able to have children, and because where we are in history, what do we know? She will have a child. So why is God waiting? Why did he wait so long? And I'm not trying to whittle on God's end of the stick. I just want you to think about it. Randy?
Maybe the same reason that Gideon whittled down his army to 300 people, so that they would know that it's from God.
Okay. So it in that sense, then, to make sure, or to make pretty clear that the birth is miraculous, that God is the one that's behind it. The other part of that I thought of was to also show the significance of the son, that God has been waiting. And he said this was going to happen. Now he said it's going to happen through Sarah, who she will be Sarah when it happens. And so that shows how special and important the son was going to be. And listen, I was thinking about this. This is an easy trap to fall into. Even people of faith can sometimes be impatient waiting for God's timing on his promises. In 2 Peter 3, verses 3 and 4, people are saying, what's this promise about his coming? Everything continues the same way as it has all along, and so doubts start coming in. And so God said you're going to have a son, it's been this year, and now we wait another 10 years, and now we're another 15 or 20 years, yes.
I think the difference for us, though, is that we don't know what the answer is. God hasn't told us, well,
Right.
You're going to get this job, you're going to
Right.
have this happen to you. So we don't know if we're
Right.
waiting for something that is going to happen,
Right.
or we're waiting for something that isn't.
Right, and good for us. Because if he did tell us it was going to happen, and we had to wait and wait and wait, what would we be tempted to do? Help it along. We try to figure out, okay, this has got to be the way. And that's what Sarah did. I mean, she figured out a way that Abram could have a son without her being a part of the equation. And we have as a further explanation here in this verse that they had been in the land of Canaan in verse 3 for 10 years, and still nothing has happened.
But it also, we would be questioning it like she is, questioning. We don't question it all the time about Jesus because we just know it will happen
Right.
someday.
Yeah.
It's not been told when we're alive, so
Right.
we don't have to worry about that.
Right. Well, and you look in the grand scheme of things for Israel, God promised right here there's going to be a son, way back in Genesis 12. And when was that fulfilled? So you have 1,500 years of Mosaic, and you have probably 700 years, 500 years, 400 years in Egypt before that. So close to 2,000 years from the beginning of the promise until it was actually fulfilled. So she has a slave named what? Hagar. That she probably acquired while they did their little sachet down into Egypt in Genesis chapter 12, because we're told there that he gained, in verse 16, Pharaoh treated Abram well. He acquired sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants. So that's probably where Hagar came from. And note that she said, perhaps I shall obtain, or I can build a family through her. So she views Hagar as a surrogate. She's going to be a concubine, not a full wife, like she is. And a concubine, according to definition, is a woman who lives with a man, often of high status, in a long-term sexual relationship similar to marriage, but without legal recognized status, usually holding an inferior position to a formal wife. Somebody turn over to Genesis chapter 25, read verse 1, and then read verse 6.
Now Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah.
Okay, now read verse 6.
But to the sons of his concubines, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living, and sent them away from his son Isaac eastward, to the land of the east.
Okay, so what was Keturah? She was a concubine. Even though Sarah's dead, he said he gave to his concubines, plural, that would be Hagar and Keturah, the children of Hagar and Keturah, these other things. But he sent them away.
Why does verse 1 say wife? And you're saying prior to that she was a wife?
It says Abraham had taken another wife.
Right, but you're saying she was a concubine before she was a wife?
No, she is a concubine wife / wife. because she's not the main wife. Sarah still is considered, because Isaac is the son of promise. Everybody else that comes through there is not. And in fact, if you look back in Genesis, look in verse 3. So Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years. Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be what?
As a wife.
His wife, but not his wife. Not his full, formal, first class, with all the benefits wife. Just a concubine.
I guess because in 23, Sarah lived 120 years and then died,
Right?
and then he takes Keturah
Right.
as a wife.
And what I'm saying is that when he took Keturah, he didn't count her or her offspring as his primary descendants, and so she becomes a concubine from that standpoint. She didn't have the rights of a full wife.
In
Those died with Sarah, yes?
In Chronicles, it says she's a concubine.
Yes. Yeah. Listen, concubinage and wife stuff is pretty important in this period of time. We don't understand it because we don't have them much. I imagine there's places in the world that still do. But I'm going to see the same thing with Jacob and Leah and Rachel, and then Bilhah and Zilpah. Bilhah and Zilpah will be concubines. Okay, question 2. What was Abram's reaction, and what did he do in the latter part of verse 2 and the first part of verse 4, down through the first part of verse 4?
He listened to her.
Okay, so he agreed with her. In his mind, did this fit with what God had said? Yeah, it's going to be a son from him, from his own body. And of course, you'll notice that there seems to be, as there generally is in situations like this, no consulting of God about it. Which again brings up, and I don't even know if I want to bring this up now, the issue of polygamy. If we have time, I'll come back to this. And so Sarah gave Hagar to Abram to be his secondary wife, his concubine. And he slept with her, my translation says, literally in the Hebrew, he went into her, and she conceived. And so if you're Abram and Sarai, what are you thinking? This is working. Okay, our plan is working. So question 3, what was the result as per the end of verse 4? Did I just hear little tiny pitter-patter feet go down the hall? That's pretty funny. I haven't heard that for a while. I enjoy hearing that. So, in fact, I'm impressed that I heard that. So, what was the result?
Hagar conceived.
Now say that again.
Hagar conceived and then
Okay, yeah. She conceived and she became pregnant. And what was the result?
Despised her mistress.
She despised Sarah. The result is going to be strife. It's going to be jealousy. It's going to be conflict between Sarai and Hagar, to the point that, what does it say about Hagar with regards to Sarai? Oh, you already said that. She despised her. There's a couple of ways you can take that, but as I was thinking about this, and Rob and I were discussing this at dinner tonight, did anybody consult Hagar as to whether she wanted to do this or not? I don't think so. We're not told that she agreed to this arrangement. She may not have agreed with this arrangement, but guess what?
She didn't have a choice.
She didn't have a choice. She had no choice. And now that she's going to be the one who's going to give Abram a child, how is she feeling? Vis-a-vis Sarah. Superior. Yeah, I'm going to give him a child. And you couldn't, you can just see that. Yes, Terry?
Him responding to Sarah reminds me of
when Adam did as Eve offered it to him. He's like, okay. And he
Yeah,
said the
yeah.
same thing here. She said this, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, Robin and I were, again, talking about this chapter in Robin's eyes. This is not Abraham's finest hour,
Right.
okay? In more than one way. So, and I'm not, this arrangement that's happened here, and what resulted from it, the strife and jealousy and conflict, in some ways it has continued right on down to our day and time between these two offspring families. Yes?
I've often wondered about this situation in the sense that we know it was part of God's plan for him to have a son. So we know that was what God intended. But having it come about this way, is God approving? Like, you understand where I'm going?
I do, because I wrestled with that today too. Because could God have withheld Hagar from having a child? Yes, he could have, but he didn't. So she has a son. She's going to have Ishmael, and all of the historical issues that followed with that, all the problems that followed with that. And so, it's God can cause all things to work together for good to those who love him and those who are, and when it's going to be according to his purpose. And apparently this was. This God can make this work into his purpose. And so he allowed it to happen. So what was Sarai's reaction to Hagar's attitude?
She blamed Abram.
Okay. She what?
She blamed her husband.
Right. So Hagar has not even given birth yet, and the problem has already begun. Okay. So Ishmael is still in vitro. Keep that in mind here. And it appears like, according to Sarah, that she's been cursing her. Almost from the moment that she knew she was pregnant. And so she's been kind of elevating herself, or viewing herself as elevated from her handmaid status. Okay? So the translation that I have indicates that she's blaming Abram for this situation. My translation says, you are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me. And I will tell you that last sentence, may the Lord judge between you and me, gives me a problem with the way this is translated, the first part of this verse. Does Sarah know it was her idea? So why is she blaming Abram? And why is she saying, I call God to judge between you and me on this matter? So I think what we're looking at here, we already saw Sarah's idea. Perhaps I can build a family through her. And so from Sarah's point of view, she's doing this in good faith to obtain an heir for Abram. The word for wrong.
And I don't think she expected Hagar to turn against her the way she did.
Well, I think that's the key here. The word for wrong is kamach, and it means damage or violence or malicious wrong. What's the malicious wrong? What's the violence that's going on here? We just read about it. From who toward who? From Hagar towards Sarah. Or Sarai. So what Sarah is saying is, may the violence done to me by Hagar be upon you.
Because he allowed it to continue.
Well, it basically, Hagar, and Sarah says, when I gave you Hagar, what was she? I put my handmaid into your arms, and it's really not arms, it's, into your bosom, into your chest, and into your embrace, would be a way to put that. And so when I gave her to you, she was my handmaid, and now what does she think? That she's not a handmaid anymore. And so the violence that's happening to me, the disrespect that I'm receiving, is being also disrespectful to you. Because she's elevating herself to say she's a wife and not a concubine anymore. Yes.
You can probably read that way because it says, "Go unto her that I shall obtain children." So she was going to figure that that child from Hagar was hers.
Yes. Yes.
So Dan, if she's, I mean, it sounds like at the beginning, like what you said,
Right.
it's almost like she thinks she's just gonna be a surrogate and then she'll
Right.
get the
Hand it
baby.
over.
But then, when it says she took her slave and gave her to her husband to be his wife or concubine, I mean, maybe they both, Hagar and Abraham, thought that that's really what she meant, and so maybe they're continuing to have a relationship, which is maybe.
Which is perfectly okay for them to do. Yeah.
She's his concubine.
Right.
And so, of course, Hagar's
Right.
thinking she's pretty hot stuff.
Right. And so, and in more ways than one probably. And so Abram is, you know, he wasn't opposed, as Terry and all of us pointed out. He's very willing for this to happen. But she's innocent in the sense that she does not deserve this despite. And so she's saying, you're being despised too, or what I'm receiving is because you're not stepping in and fixing this, and so let God judge. She's standing here saying, let God judge. I'm innocent. I don't deserve this treatment. So she's not talking about the whole arrangement. She's talking about the violence or the bad treatment, the malicious attitude that Hagar has towards her now. Yes?
Maybe Sarai expected Abram to correct
Well, I think so.
her because all through this situation, he just kind of sits there and says, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And he did not step in. And in fact, his response is less than ideal, as if I quote Ross's mother here. So how did Abram handle it? Yeah, she's in your hands. So Abram doesn't contest Sarah's claims. He doesn't say, hey, it was your idea, don't blame me. No, he knows what she's talking about. And he supports the fact that what is Hagar's status?
Servant.
She is still her servant. She is not on an equal plane with Sarai. So now he says, your servant is in your hands, or in your embrace, under your control. She's still your handmaid, your slave, and because of that, you have the right to do what you think is best. Okay. And usually when we hear somebody saying that, I know you'll do what's best, what kind of a default attitude are we hoping that person will have? Godly. Okay? Which in this case isn't going to happen. So literally what Abram said is, she's in your hands, she's at your disposal, treat her as you want. Yes?
More of a comment rather than a question, but I just find the whole story interesting in that, like, Abraham had a choice as well, and we don't really see God condoning or condemning any of their
Right.
actions in this.
Right.
The only place we see God is him helping the victim, who is Hagar.
Right.
So, I mean, Abram's doing all this, and he's making a choice in this too.
Right.
But we don't see God's response
Right.
to that.
Until after the fact. You know, you're going to have a child. Oh, let Ishmael live before you. No, he's not the guy. Yes?
Yeah, we've seen throughout Abram's travels that he doesn't exactly make choices that bring him into conflict.
Right. Well, he makes choices sometimes that don't seem to be protective of Sarai.
He's not a particularly great role model for what the leadership role
Right.
is supposed to be.
Right.
Which is He went to war to recover his
To recover Lot.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not mounting up his 318 people to surround Hagar and tell her, don't you treat my wife like that. And so it says that Sarah did what to Hagar?
Dealt with her harshly, abused her.
Okay, he abused her, he mistreated her. Do you know that's exactly the same word that's used in Exodus 1:11 about how the Egyptians were treating the Israelites? The exact same word. That gives me a little insight into the severity of what's going on. Yes, Ross?
Now, two things. So, one, the do to her what is good in your sight, that's sin language. Like, good in your sight is whenever you see something that's good in your eyes. Like, that's what is said about the
That,
fruit.
yeah,
So anyway, that's sin language. Like, don't, like, he's not really encouraging her to do something good.
okay.
And then,
Well, he may not be, yes.
Right.
Right.
At least the way that it's written makes
Right.
me think that.
Okay.
Calls that to mind. But then that is really interesting that before any of the Egyptians ever treated the Hebrews poorly, a Hebrew is treated.
Right.
an
The mother of the nation that was in Egypt is mistreating an Egyptian.
It doesn't justify
No.
anything that the Egyptians do, but it does give you kind of a little bit of
Right.
a little bit of a pause.
Right. And so what does Hagar do? She runs off. She runs off carrying the heir with her. She's still pregnant. Yes.
Do you think Hagar knew about the covenant that
No.
God-
I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think that was an incentive, for,
So she was being used.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So question 6, describe the interaction between the angel and Hagar in verses 7 through 9. So, and let me just quickly say, let's who or what is the angel of the Lord here? The word is Melech Yahweh, messenger of Yahweh. If you read the context in verse 9, the angel of the Lord told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her, which could just be a message from God to her to go back. Verse 10 says, the angel says, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. When have you heard that before? From who to who? From God to Abram. That sounds more like not just a messenger, it sounds like God speaking himself. And then verse 11, the angel of the Lord also said to her, now you are pregnant, you will give birth to a son, you will name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your misery. And then so forth and so on. So now it looks like we're back to a messenger again, because the Lord is a separate person who has seen your misery. And in all of this, I think what we need to understand as we go from the Old Testament and we come into the New Testament, that Yahweh is a complex person, or complex personality, or personage. And we see that more clearly in the New Testament. I don't feel comfortable when people say, well, this is Jesus. Because I know when Jesus came to be, and that's when the Word became flesh. That's not here. Okay? He may be appearing in some sort of form, but he's not flesh. So that's Jesus. Jesus is the Word that became flesh. Can the Word appear in some other form? God is going to here in chapter 18 to Abram, and then we have a pair of angels with him as well. Yes, a theophany kind of a thing. But and this may be the Word here. I'm not taking that away. I feel perfectly happy saying sometimes I think it is. But it's not Jesus. Let's not confuse the issue by saying that. Okay? I'm just asking you not to do that. Don't confuse me with your verbiage like that.
How would that be by calling this person Jesus, then you're saying you don't want us to do that for what reason, even if you think it's the Word?
Because Jesus is in the New Testament. Jesus is the one who became flesh and dwelt among us, and they called his name Jesus. He's not Jesus back here. He's the Word.
He's the same person.
If this is the person of him, then yes. But Jesus is a human being and God. He's not a God who appears to be some sort of something that's not flesh.
So are you
It's just me. I'm just asking you.
In Abram when he was Abram, not
Right.
Abraham.
Yeah.
We call Abraham Abraham
Yeah.
when he was Abraham.
Yeah. I think it confuses people. It confuses me. 'Cause I cannot, and I understand that the angel of the Lord could be the Word who's appearing there, but he's not appearing as a human being who's been born of a woman. That's Jesus, though. Okay?
Dan?
Yes.
I've totally gotten lost, I just want to get it cleared in my brain. So are you saying where it says the angel of the Lord?
Yes.
You're saying the Lord part is Jesus?
No.
It's not Jesus.
I'm saying the Lord is Yahweh.
Okay, I just wasn't.
So I don't know, in some cases, the angel of the Lord is a messenger the Lord has sent.
Okay, I just.
And even in this context, it looks like sometimes he's that. In other words, and it could be that the messenger is also saying, when he says, I will increase, that he's saying, here's what God said, here's what Yahweh said, and give it that way.
So are you saying that occasionally people.
I think sometimes it sure seems like that this is the word that's there.
But let me just, so are you saying occasionally when people say the angel of the Lord, they're saying that Jesus is the angel of the Lord?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure I
Right.
understand.
And I'm just wanting us to make sure we separate Jesus and leave him in the New Testament where he
See,
is.
I never knew that, now you've got that in my brain.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a mess.
Well, now you'll be prepared to talk to people about it. All right, so where do you think she's going? That's already up there. How did I do that? Okay, this is a really cheap slide. So here's the way of Shur, goes all the way down to Egypt. I love how they put the spring of water, which would be Bir Lahai Roy. But this one costs a lot more than the previous one. Neither one of them cost me anything. So Bir Lahai Roy is right here. This is the way of Shur. There's another road that goes along here. It's the coastal road. It's called the highway of Philistia. It's the one that goes along the water. It's much more populous. That road is. That's like the interstate, and this is a little state highway. And so she's going this way because what does she not want to have happen? She doesn't want to be caught. She's a runaway slave. And so she's taking the lower, less popular road. And so as we get into this, as we're describing the interaction, let me just ask a question. How does the angel address her? Servant of Sarah. You're the handmaid of Sarai. Okay? And where have you come from and where are you going? And she doesn't answer the where question. She answers a what question, which is what is she doing? Okay, so she's running away from her mistress, Sarah. So she recognizes that too. She realizes her station. And so what did the angel of the Lord tell her to do? Return and submit. And what was going on back there? What's going back on with Hagar and Sarai?
She's being oppressed.
She's being mistreated. Okay? And to me, the implied promise is that if you will submit, because I think that's the problem, she hasn't been submitting, she's been giving herself airs and position that caused this. If she submits, then that abuse will not continue. And we don't really see it again happening. Regardless, you have to trust God. Okay? And again, I was talking to Robin about that. In order to save gasoline, Robin had to go down to see Megan today, and so she dropped me off at the office, and when she went back, she picked me up, and I finished working at home today. But what are husbands told to do to their wives in Ephesians? What are wives told to do to their husbands? Submit. Is that I will if she will, or I will if he will? No, it's your responsibility. Husbands, you love your wives whether or not your wife submits. Wives, you submit to your husbands whether or not your husband loves you. Okay, so God is telling Hagar here, go back to your mistress and submit. And you just have to trust God that he knows what he's talking about. Okay. Question 7, what promises did the angel make to Hagar? Because here's, I think, where Hagar gets some hope. I'm going to have to hurry here.
It would increase your descendants.
Okay, I'm going to increase your descendants. They'll be too numerous to count. Though this son's not going to be the one, she'll find out later, she doesn't find out now, that's going to be fulfilled. He's going to be a great people. And listen, God is going to later tell Abram in chapter 17, verse 5, that you're going to be the father of many nations. If you're going to be the father of many nations, what does that require? More than one son. Okay? More than one offspring, different ones. So I'm going to increase your number. You're going to have, it's the next thing he told her. You're going to have a son. Okay? You're going to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. And that God knows about your misery. So the instruction to go back and all, it's not given in a vacuum. God not totally unaware of what's going on or what happened or what transpired before. He's telling her to go back. It's sympathetic. I think that God is being sympathetic here. And then what does he say about her son? He's going to be a wild donkey of a man. Doesn't every parent want to be told that about their child? Wild donkeys, by the way, are known for their excessive lust when the females are in heat. They live out in the wilderness. They wander homelessly around. They scavenge in the wastelands, which is probably saying that Ishmael is going to live what kind of a life? A nomadic life. A passionate nomadic life. And if you go over to chapter 21 and verses 20 and 21, speaking of Ishmael, God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. And then his mother gave him an Egyptian for a wife. So then we have an interesting thing that follows that. It says, and he will live in hostility toward all of his brothers. First of all, his hand will be against everyone and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all of his brothers. The word for hostility doesn't have to mean that. I mean, and again, Rob and I were talking about this today. His hand will be against, almost every translation has that. Though the word means so many things. And it can mean just his hand is going to be in the hand of everybody else, and everybody's hand is going to be in his. But I think in the context here, as we look at what it means is that there's probably there is some against stuff here. But the hostility part can just mean he's going to live to the east, or he's going to live in the face, or he's going to live against them. In other words, he's not going to be with them, he's going to be nearby but not with them. And so I just want you to know that hostility is not necessarily a part of it. I think for some translators, the way we see the world today has colored how they translate that word. Because he did live east of them and in a different area. It wasn't just this horrible anger all the time. In fact, Isaac and Ishmael got together and they buried Abraham at the end. So there wasn't that. Yes?
The latter part of verse 12 in New King James, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his...
There you go. And the King James says that as well. Yes?
I have a Muslim in the family, married into the family. Is this where Christianity branches with Isaac and Muslims branch off with Ishmael?
No, Christianity branches off of anybody that has faith in Jesus Christ. But Jesus is going to come through Isaac.
That's what I mean.
Yes. This is where that happens.
And then Muslim with Ishmael?
Yes. The Arab people. Yeah. But again, Arabs, they make the choice of going to follow Muhammad.
As far as the line of Muhammad.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what Muhammad.
Like in the 600 AD.
Yeah. But I don't know what his Mecca or wherever he came from. But it would have been out of probably that family. And no ringing the final bell till we're done. Okay, thank you, Sam. So, And so, how did Hagar react? I mean, you've just been told to go back, be with your mistress, and submit to her. And by the way, you're going to have a son who's a wild donkey of a man. And what was her reaction?
She worships God.
Yes. She appreciates the blessing. She named this place, the spring where she was getting this water, Bir Lahai Roi, which means God who sees. Is that right? Did I get that right? Or God who listens? The God who hears. The God who hears.
Of the living one who sees.
Pardon me?
Of the living one who sees me.
Okay. So there's some sort of sensory thing. I have now seen the one who sees me. Which I think, that is so poetic. Does she know about Yahweh?
That's why I wrote that in my.
Could she live in Abraham's house and not know about Yahweh? And not see the riches and the blessings that God has given? And he takes 318 men and he whips a bunch of kings that have just come down and cleared out the land. So what does she know about Yahweh? He's powerful. He's blessing my master. Okay? But it's just been on the outskirts. She hasn't had any personal interaction with him or anything like that. And now she says, I've now seen the God who sees me. I love that. And the well was still there when this was read and written. So how does this chapter end? Quickly. Josh, are you going to answer the question?
No, I was not. I was just going to say that, to your point, she was blessed by proxy through Abraham.
Yeah.
As we read this whole scenario, clearly a slave.
Yeah.
And although she had a godly master, she clearly was living a slave life. And so being able to, fearing and having to leave with impregnant, and then having this moment, I mean, it's kind of like when Jesus' feet were washed, and he said, "Hey, look, who needs it more?"
Right.
But she was clearly in a situation
Right.
that she needed.
Well, and if you're Hagar, what position do you think you possibly could have that Yahweh would talk to you? Zero. And yet here he is, talking to her. So how does the chapter end?
Bore the son and called his name Ishmael.
Okay, so Hagar bore to Abram a son. God told her to name him, in verse 11, Ishmael. Who named him in the end of this? Abram named him. How did Abram know to name him that? So when Hagar comes back and she says, this is all that happened to me. This is what God did. This is what God said. Here's how he, blah, blah, blah. When she got to the part that said that the son I'm going to have is going to have descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count, do you think that kind of caught Abram's mind and said, I've heard that someplace else. And so, and God said, name him Ishmael. Of course Abram's going to do that. He's going to give him the God-given name. And also it would be clear, or at least it seems to be later on, that Ishmael is not going to be the promised son. So when Abram was 86 when Ishmael was born. And that shows the narrator is interested in giving us a chronology here, because we've already been told that he moved to Canaan when he was 75. So he's moving the story along. So he had a son by Hagar when he was 86, a year after Sarah first had her plan. And he's going to have Isaac when he's how old? 100. So now we're going to wait another 14 years for Isaac. All right, so lesson 13, correctly, is in the slot back there if you want to get it tonight. And of course, I will mail it out along with lesson 14 with the Zoom this coming.